Hey y'all, I am here with Andrew Froning. He is the Global Director of Business Development at Cyera. And Cyera is and you can stop me if I get this wrong, but a revolutionary AI-powered security platform helping businesses understand and protect their data. So thank you so much for talking to me. Andrew has done some really incredible things there, so we'll just get right into it. But thanks for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so you have only been at Cyera, remind me, two and a half years, is that correct?
No, not even.
Not
It feels
even?
like a year and a half.
Okay, so in that year and a half, you have whipped it into shape. They're a relatively young company, and as you guys can imagine, hyper growth in the age of AI. The security is huge, AI is huge. They marry it and do some incredible things with that data. You've seen explosive growth or they've seen explosive growth in the past 4 years. So how did you scale this BDR team? You got there, you had a few people on deck, but you needed to quickly get in and make some magic happen. So, walk me through a little bit about how you came to be there and how you really were able to build a high performing team and scale it while sort of starting from scratch.
Yeah, so I was brought in a year and a half ago, really to not just help scale for sales, but also scale a development program for reps. And so I had those two main objectives, but obviously in order to develop the reps, I also had to show the value of a BDR program. So really it was about understanding about what needed to be achieved along each stage of growth. So we were very early into being a company. So we need to get our brand out there. We need to get our AEs, a lot of them still in ramp, at bats. So my focus was on meetings, getting qualified meetings, really getting us going. And that way also enable us to understand our messaging, who we could connect with, what was working, and that was the focus. And then we would be evolving and really starting to go down to the funnel towards getting sales accepted opportunities, qualified pipeline, and just adapting the enablement that goes around with that. And also setting expectations appropriately. I told every one of my hires as I came in, and I started with 5, ended the fiscal year with 15, and now I'm growing the team to 36 reps.
Whoa, that's a jump. That's quick.
Yeah, yeah. I just say it's about expectation setting. I tell all my reps that my belief is quota is the bare minimum expectation, right? That's on target. That's the expectation. So I'm going to expect more than that. And I'm going to build all my enablement and everything I provide around my expectations. So if my expectations to get you 135% quota, I'm going to make sure I'm doing everything in my power to get you there. And then when we do get there, we're going to celebrate and enjoy that. So that culture of success and pushing for accelerators and exceeding quota is just built into our culture. And what helps with that too is bringing on strong leaders and
Yeah.
taking the time to hire. I tell people I hire champions, and not in a metaphorical way, but it's an acronym. They're coachable, humble, adaptive, motivated. They play as a team, intelligent, open-minded, nimble, and savvy. Bring those people in, you're going to get a high-performing team.
Man, I love that. I don't think I knew about this acronym. You just pulled that out on me there.
We
I
need
love that.
trademark it.
Yeah, you need to. We'll give you some time between when now and when this goes live. So you mentioned hiring, which is great because you know, I know that that's a lot of traits to be on the lookout for, and it's something that you hold really dearly to the success of your program. So how do you identify those traits in sort of the hiring process, and how do you make sure that you're getting those candidates assessed properly before you get them into the program?
Yeah, and it's on the leader ultimately to design an interview flow that can assess for all that and is structured in a way that is quick and efficient because if you're scaling, you need to hire fast, but also is built out in a way that you can ensure you're taking the time to find those qualities and bring them out. So I developed a flow where each section is really identifying parts of those traits and we draft experience-based questions and tasks around those traits. And so like experience-based questions are tell me a time when, and you kind of dig into that. With those too, ahead of time with the hiring team, establish what good looks like. Have an understanding of what you want to hear from prospects to say, yeah, they have these traits, and what good doesn't look like, right? It helps also with the bias and making sure you understand as a collective what we're bringing on. And also do more than just questions. I include tasks. So there's a writing assignment, 3 questions. I tell everyone shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes, the equivalent of a normal interview. And then we do have a longer portion of our interview process. It's about an hour where we do a role play. And I do it in a little bit different way where we do a Cyera 101 for a few 10 minutes. There you can ask questions, take notes. Then we review the prompt and give the candidate, say, 10 minutes to collect their thoughts, prepare for it. Then we do the role play. We get into it. It's cold call. Afterwards, shouldn't take more than 8 minutes, right? It's a role play cold call. The hiring managers typically doing this part of the interview process, they give the person feedback on how they did. And after that feedback's delivered, there's that engagement, that back and forth. The candidate does the same exact prompt, same exact role play all over again. And it shows us like who can take feedback. And
Yeah.
that's a critical part to hiring the right talent. And I felt is a big game changer in how we interview. And it sets us up for long-term success because if we're bringing in all these people just looking for these traits, it allows us to bring in people from different experiences. And that allows us different perspectives, which leads to more ideas, improved processes, and again, long-term success.
I love that. And I love too that you're not just hiring from, been there, done that, people who've even held this role before. You're willing to kind of branch out and truly seek those different perspectives, which I think is crucial and a great learning for other leaders. So speaking of leaders, you sort of touched on this. Something that's really, I guess, ever present in the world of sales is this idea of like the player coach, and you were the best salesperson. So naturally, you're now the leader of all the salespeople. And you said to me that you don't really believe in that model as much, or you've evolved beyond that. And so I want you to tell me a little bit more about how do you identify who on the team is ready to grow to that next step, and how do you kind of maybe direct people to another path if that isn't the one. And also, how do you hire a net new person to come in if you don't have that talent that you want to move on. So lots of angles to that. But yeah, how do you pick your leaders and get yourself out of that day to day so that you can have 36 reps?
Yeah, let's try and summarize this because I could talk like a whole hour just on
Just
that
lit
topic.
up.
Yeah, look, I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to progress and promote high performers, but you gotta make sure it's the right fit, right? And I encourage quarterly career conversations, really understanding where they're progressing and understanding where their interests lie. And a lot of times, especially if you're a good leader yourself, you motivate your direct reports to say, hey, I think I could do this too. Like, I love how they are interacting with me, and I'd love to do the same for my peers, especially if they already have peers coming to them asking questions and they're assisting. Like we see it firsthand. They then want to try their hand at this, but having the idea of them just being a player coach doesn't prepare them to be a leader. Like it just prepares them to be a coach.
Right.
Which, hey, you know what? If they want to go into training and enablement, that's great. That's perfect. But if they want to be a leader, they need that leadership experience, that management experience. So I have my team leads actually manage a handful of reps. It could be 2 up to 4 in my opinion. And so they're still maintaining that team lead player quota, discounted of course, but then they have their direct reports roll up to them. They understand kind of the pressure of having these reports numbers in your hands as well. Like you are responsible for that now. You are a manager. That also means having those tough conversations, learning how to identify trends and when to speak up and bring up areas of improvement for your reps. Give them the actual management experience. And that will also help them identify maybe this isn't for me. This wasn't what I was expecting because they don't always see the back end of management. So hey, that is perfectly fine. I'd rather us find that out now as a team lead than give you a whole team and it crash and burn because it's
Right.
just not fit for you. Let's go find where you do fit. But on the other end, and where I've seen really great success, is now I've set up a leadership bench. Um, it is very hard a lot of times to build out a leadership bench in a BDR program because so many people are going that AE route, right? Or other roles within a company, which I'm an advocate for. But typically they go that route, and all of a sudden you're that's where you see the pressure. Put a high performer into a team lead role and all that. Or when you need to hire an actual manager, you're now behind the eight ball to hire someone because typically at that point you already have the reps in hand. You need that leader yesterday. By having these team leads, you have that leader. Now it's just a matter of, hey, let's backfill that coverage that you were carrying a quota for and just add some reps. You're now full manager. I've been coaching you around this. I have full faith and confidence that you're now going to be able to handle this management role. And it creates this tier. And now as a second line leader, I love the fact that my frontline managers, when they have team leads, get people management experience of people managers, right? And that's now preparing them for their second line leadership experience, right? So you have this consistent like hierarchy of leadership development.
I love it. It's as if a pyramid scheme were good. You're
Yeah,
just stacking
right.
it up. So another hot topic in our world, and really in all of tech, not just sales tech, is this return to office. We got empty buildings, and we got people with money who want those buildings full of people. And you have some opinions about that. And I think that you've handled it really, really well. So I would love to just in these last minutes that I have with you for you to sort of explain your approach to, when do they get to work from home? Do they get to work from home? Why or when do they need to be in the office? And how much does that really affect someone in these sort of entry level sales roles and, sort of early leadership roles?
Yeah, I think it goes without saying it's a fact that like in a post-pandemic world, like we understand the benefits and the ability to work remotely. And I am a big advocate in that there are roles where, yes, that makes complete sense. Go and work full remote. That's understandable. But in certain roles, I don't think that's the case. Just like, hey, a sports team, they have to come to their office. Yeah, it's a stadium or a field, but they have to show up in person, right? Because that's just a requirement. So and that's like an extreme example, but you find these balances in what fits each role, in my opinion. And for the departments I lead, right? They are a role in which requires development, or there's a focus around development. I tell people the most important word in our title is development. If you focus on developing sales, the talent will leave. But if you focus on developing talent, the sales will thrive. So just like what we saw in school systems, right? Is like, hey, all the students are back in schools now again, right? I need my reps in that in-person environment. Now I'm not saying 5 days a week, right? I agree. There is a benefit to working remotely at times. And I think there is one in almost every role, even in BDR SDR roles. But the majority of the time, so for us, it's 2 days out of office, 3 days in office. I want them in office collaborating, hearing each other, especially these recent grads. I'm sorry, it must be so horrible to be making 100 dials, only getting a few connects, or being cussed out at by a prospect, and you're sitting in your childhood bedroom, and the only person you can rant to or vent to is your mom. I would hate to be that
Yeah,
in that position.
you're doing great, sweetie.
There's that, and it's that more immediate feedback, being able to turn and just talk to your prospect, and something I call collateral knowledge sharing, where, hey, Jack over here is asking me a question around a product feature or how to handle an objection. Julie, on the other end of our tables, overhears that, right? And now she's learned that knowledge that I just provided Jack, but she wasn't actively engaged in that conversation, but she heard it, and now she's learned. You're not going to get that if everyone's completely remote. I'm sorry, you're not. And I think it has an impact. Actually, I did a measure at one of my previous orgs where we were starting to return to office, and it just so happened where it was completely optional. You didn't have to come in, but you could. The 10 reps that were coming in routinely also were the top 10 reps in the department. I mean, there is a correlation there. And I continue to see that. So that's my approach to return to office. And that at BDRs, yes, I'm all for hybrid, but I think if you want to develop that talent, you need that in-person perspective as well and that in-person time.
Well, and in closing with that, you make excellent points about, why that works, and especially in that role, why it is maybe more crucial than it might be for a seasoned, enterprise AE that
Hmm.
just needs some quiet time to do all their stuff. But I think it's really interesting that you have taken this initiative, sort of return to office or the hybridization of the team, and you've used it to motivate the reps. So just in the last few minutes, tell me just a little bit about how you kind of run spiffs, I guess, against working remotely or working in office.
Yeah, I started this even pre-pandemic. 'Cause look, you hear about summer Fridays, right? They love, and anyone would love, time away from work. So why not use that as a non-monetary incentive? And I've set up a program where if we are overachieving our targets, hey, yeah, if you can do that in less time than the standard work week, I'm willing to give you that time back. All right. So I've set up programs where if you are achieving or like pacing to 125% or more to your target, hey, you get an early dismissal at like say 4 p.m. on Friday, or maybe just 2 hours early on Friday. But on top of this, to encourage team camaraderie as well, if the team is hitting 100% to quota, in addition to you are pacing to 100%,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to you pacing to overachieve, you get half day on Friday. Obviously, if the company's already giving out summer Fridays, it doesn't necessarily always work. Maybe you accommodate it to like coming into work late on Monday, who knows? But that's where I saw a lot of drive is like they were striving to hit their targets, and then because they would get extra reward if the team hit, you had that camaraderie of helping others. And then I put in one more spiff that incentivizes them to schedule meetings between Monday and Thursday that would almost set them up to be able to hit that 120% or more. And that's where I would reward, hey, now that you've already set up the week to excel, you can work from home on Friday now. So not only have you earned work from home Friday, but you've set yourself up in a way that you're going to overperform. The team's going to overperform because everyone's now in this together, that you don't have to commute. You're working from remotely and you have a half day. Hey, if my team is hitting exceeding quota, I'm okay giving them a half day,
Yeah,
right? Like that's well worth it.
totally. Well, Andrew, thank you. You're about to be flooded with applicants because you sound like an amazing leader. But thank you for
I
your
mean,
time and for walking us through that.
of course, glad to.